Okay, so I want to talk about why I don't support men's rights. Okay, mainly because it doesn't make sense. Okay, everything that men rights sort of whines about is tied to patriarchy, does originate from patriarchy, hyper patriarchal programming. Okay, like, so what do men rights complain about? They will say something like about, I don't know, the suicide rate. That's tied to patriarchy. If you had the ability to cry and feel your feelings and emotions, you probably wouldn't slip into these suppressions and kill yourself. But patriarchal programming says these unethical things like men don't cry or show emotions and feelings, and it wouldn't be manly to see a therapist and this and that, so they kill themselves. Like, we already can see that what happens when someone holds in their anger, that person eventually explodes. So that has an effect. So what would happen if someone holds in their pain, their sadness? That would have an effect too. This is not deep. It's not complicated. Yet that's what a lot of men are doing. They have this whole, golem, Iron Man act persona. They're playing that societal role, that patriarchal role, and they become these giant walking wounds, right? That's why some men are so angry all the time. Fire is sort of this, or anger is sort of this fiery emotion that's meant to drive people to protect themselves. So you kind of become engulfed in fire because you're a walking wound, because you haven't expressed your pain and sadness, is why you're so angry and why you're so depressed and why you commit suicide. It's patriarchy. It's also why you shoot us in mass shootings and shoot up schools and that type of thing. Yes, it's a bit because you're generally more aggressive, like, right? But it's also because you are we're emotionally handicapped. Mm-hmm. Because of patriarchy. Yes, men will generally be less prone to cry than women, less readily cry, but we didn't have to cartoonishly exaggerate that into women are bubbling, constantly crying people. Like, no, you need more emotional discipline. Okay, let's stop infantilizing women, but also into men don't cry, which magically, I cried at my dad's funeral, so you can't cry. So men do cry only at socially sanctioned times. That doesn't make sense. When Kobe Bryant cried, all these, you know, gigantars crying on the court, so you guys can cry when you want to cry. Like, it just makes no sense. Um, so patriarchy, and that was just meant to patriarchy wants to control everyone. Um, it's just meant to make us disposable, like cannon fodder, right? If men can cry and feel emotions, then it's going to be harder for them to be disposable soldiers on the battlefield. If you can have emotions, you're going to have empathy. Like, women wonder why men like will can watch porn when it's so like the women, you can see the women are uncomfortable or they're in pain or they like have dead eyes and men don't even notice. Other than like registering with women as subhuman, men don't have empathy because they don't have access to their emotions. And right, the whole Golem Iron Man act. And that was a patriarchal intention because if you have empathy, you're going to be a less viable killing machine, right? When you're about to shoot that 11-year-old kid in a country that we intentionally destabilized for war profits and power trips, uh, you're if you have empathy, you're not going to kill them. And then if you're crying, you're not going to be a good fighter. So they just exaggerated it to like that into men don't cry. And just because women do generally more cry, we want to be as distant as from women as possible, because they we want to be as vulnerable because anything associated with women is seen as bad and socially stigmatizing, which is patriarchal as well. But so yeah, it just all goes back to patriarchy. What's another thing men's rights complaints about? Women, like in child, like I know where they decide in court which parent gets the kid. Women are more likely to get the kid, right? That's patriarchy. Like it's patriarchal programming that women should be these stay-at-home, that there's these natural nurturers who should be the caretaker and should stay at home with the kid. Okay, um, and then you can tell like men rights is a joke because there's so many men who hold that ideology, who think men should be the head of the household and women are these natural caretakers. But when that ideology plays out against them, it's a problem. Like what? That's a patriarchal ideology. And then when it plays out in court, it's a problem. That doesn't make any sense. And then men are so many men are judges and they are the ones who are doling that out, and which is patriarchal. So again, that just goes back to patriarchy. Like patriarchy says women are natural caretakers, that's where they belong, this, that, and the fourth. A lot of you believe in it. Their emotional intelligence. You know how many mothers are abusing their children right now? Like, yeah, right. Um, so again, that just goes back to patriarchal programming, which has this like sort of, misogynist. It's just exaggeration. Maybe women do have this sort of, or maybe generally sort of have something there, but it's a slight difference. But we exaggerate everything in this sort of binary, polarized way just to make things more convenient identification, more convenient control. Okay, men can be just as nurturing as women, if not more sometimes. But that's patriarchy striking again. Let's see what men's rights also says. Men's rights, like conscription, patriarchy. Women had to literally fight tooth and nail to be accepted in the military by men, by patriarchal men. So now that's a men's rights issue. Why did they resist women being in the military so hard? I could see Ronda Rousey being an efficient soldier. I could see Layla Ali being an efficient soldier, being a firefighter. You can see it in there too. Like, no, you can't do it. Why? Just make a criteria, and if they can do it, they can do it. Wasn't hard. But it's just this patriarchal ideology where men and women have these dictated roles and it's natural and it's that in the fourth, right? And then it's like this patriarchal thing where it's like it's a boys club, it's the perpetual frat type of thing. No, it's a job, you're getting paid, so who cares if you want to make everything a perpetual frat? Please grow up. um so yeah, that's just, you know patriarchy. Domestic violence against men, that's patriarchy. Why would people take so-called domestic violence against men seriously when you have things like you got beat up by a girl? What does that mean? Um, so you shouldn't take. It's like don't take violence towards men by women seriously. Take it seriously at the same time. It's like are women weak, delicate babies that can do no harm? Are they or aren't they? Pick a struggle that's all that also goes back to patriarchy. Okay, someone will say never hit women, and there's an issue with domestic violence cases at the same time. Some of you hold those same ideologies, and you're in the men's rights movement. It doesn't make sense. Why would they take it seriously? That's patriarchal programming. It's practically patriarchal propaganda that's so strong it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, women will not strength train, they'll become anorexic just to fit this sort of patriarchal mold and desire. And it's like, um, yeah, that's just a patriarchal sort of Elijah. Patriarchy sort of frames women as these sort of delicate nymphs, and then when they're treated like delicate nymphs, people get mad. That doesn't make sense. No, they're not delicate nymphs. Um, Education. I think men are mad that women do better. That's just patriarchal and a civic issue. It should be reformed. Like, academia should be abolished. But let me see. Yes, women do better sitting in class learning trivial factoids with no practical application over and over repetitively. Um, guess who was the like and the biggest thing with all of this stuff is like guess who was the architect? Guess who created the blueprint? Guess who was in charge? Men, 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 men. It's like men designed this video game and then you're losing in the video game. It's just so pathetic. I don't know what to say about it. It's like white cast people. Like white cast people, this we live in like a white cast world essentially. This is like all white cast people's design, but white cast people have the highest suicide rate. How are you losing at your own game? Like they complain about this. Like societies weren't hyper competitive. They were mostly like soft hierarchies or like were egalitarian. It's a white cast design to make it hyper competitive, but white cast people don't like a lot of white cast people don't like competing. Like, then why did you design it like this? We were chilling. Like, anyways, and men, it's like the same issue. It's like you men make the education system like it's women barely had a say. All of this is like when women couldn't even like vote or own bank accounts. Like it makes no sense. Okay, so let's see. Circumcision mostly stems from like patriarchal religions. It's basically men in all of these positions of influence. Like I don't see how that's a. I'm not saying that everything's you're saying that it's a women's issue, but it's still very patriarchal or and it's patriarchal men. Like they're in these things and I don't even know how that's an issue. Like but I mean I don't support circumcision at all, but yeah, child custody, that's what it's called. Patriarchy. Um Alimony, marital property, that's again patriarchy. Like patriarchal basically says programs women to be dependent and when they're helpless dependents and when they're like in the military thing it's like they literally labeled as dependents. Like they don't even hide it. Like and they're dependents. It's like not their partners like, or something. But when they're treated like that, men get mad. Yes, if they're helpless dependents, then you should pay this alimony and this, that, and the fourth, and like social safety nets. Like, yes, it is unfair that these domestic abuse shelters are so catered to women, especially since it's like voluntary consensual relationships that they got in, and like, don't use my tax money to track adult human females, please. Go to a homeless shelter or don't get in that situation. Thanks. Um, get a job. Use your savings. Um, but again, patriarchy frames women as poor little delicate nymphs, so we're gonna treat them that way. It's patriarchy. Um, so yeah. So that's why men's rights is kind of a joke. Everything links back to patriarchy, and then half of these people in men's rights, or maybe more, still hold patriarchal ideologies or maintain patriarchy, and like program it into their sons and that type of thing, and then complain about it. Like women have to deal with patriarchy, and and then you have women have to deal with patriarchy, and then you have to deal with patriarchy, but then you make women responsible for your dealings with patriarchy. Like it makes no sense. Like you guys are so like, and then it's like same like white cast people, like how like they have a back catalog of like 400,000. They complain about like color swaps, but they have a back catalog of like 400,000 TV shows and movies, currently overrepresented hundreds of movies and TV shows. It's like this world is like rigged for you. It's catered for you. You're like draining. Like how many of you are like in like the military is like a basic income for men. Most of you don't do anything. Most of you aren't in danger. Uh, like what did you call it? Like social safety nets and like domestic violence against men. Like vets, like you're like the face of PTSD. Like why do we track veterans who never even seen warfare for homelessness for life? Why? Why is PTSD only permanent for you? Like we don't track survivors of mass school shootings for life. We don't track survivors of school shootings or mass shootings for life. Where we track grown ass men. Like why do you have a VA hospital? Go to a hospital, like you're not higher caste than us. Um, why, like prisons, like they're basically adult men nurseries. Like they're having barbecues in there. They have pets. They play video games. They're having sex with sexy transsexual concubines. Our taxpayer money is going for that. You're shooting us in school shootings and mass shootings. Like society's rigged for you, and you're still failing. You're draining and you're complaining, and it's all linked to patriarchy. Like you guys are like the most annoying demographic on planet Earth. Like I don't know who to dislike more, men or women. Like what's a word for you? Like patriarchal men and women. Like there's something because it's not everyone. I'm saying, but like what? Like you guys are so like I just want to throw up. Like here's like straight patriarchal men are just like opposite fucking elite, if not most men. Like I don't see what you guys offer. Like what's the point of us sometimes? Like our edge was that we're generally physically stronger and aggressive, but now that's pretty irrelevant with guns. So what is our purpose? really, like, because like it's largely has a lot of these issues, like, and I'm not trying to vilify us because I know it's like the same thing, like women hate us, right? They want to castrate us because of rape and this and stuff. And they're trying to turn us into like trans women, this type of thing, mold us in their image. But before, in pre-industrial, pre-modern societies, women were topless in many of them. Africa, Australia, Asia, um, parts of all these places, and the Americas. So women working, sweating, bare breasts, dancing. So men just standing there. If sexual assault, if rape was an issue, women wouldn't have been topless. It's this over stressful, overactive, overstimulating society, which is a huge factor in that, right? Not just overstimulating from like these artificial lights, the chemicals in our food, eating like tortured cows and pigs, that energy, but we're erotically overstimulated while simultaneously sexually repressed. Like it's still chaste, puritanical, nonsensical for show crap. Um, which is a huge issue. So issue, huge issue. Which is why I'm kind of like tuning them out. It's like meh. I'm well. A lot of us are advocating let's leave this shithole system, but that women don't want to leave, but you guys don't want to leave either. So I don't think we're like inherently doomed or helpless or horrible, but patriarchal people and a lot of feminists basically support patriarchy in disguise. Like I know it's like we just went full retard, but because everyone's complaining about this, but no one wants to leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, and patriarchal, you guys had a shot, you had your run. Like, um, tried that. Hey, we got here. It was an experience, but that's pretty much um, that. I guess we'll just have a we're addicted to this modernity, hyper industrialism, whatever you want to call it, toxic codependent relationship with the system. We like the benefits of all this, but we don't like any of the downsides. We like the perks, benefits, but none of the downsides are challenges. It's like women, like the perks of patriarchy, like, you know, the boat is sinking, women and children first. Like, they want to keep that, right? But they don't want anything else that comes with it. And men rights people are a lot of the same way. You like the perks of patriarchy, you like the benefits of patriarchy, but you like none of the challenges, you like none of the downsides. I don't. There's probably no other thing more annoying than complaining about suicide when you're suicidal because you are. We're not so you're because you're a robot. So many men act like robots. You're not just a robot. Like, the simultaneous complaining about side effects of treating humans like robots, making humans robots, but simultaneously being a robot, maintaining the robotization of us, and if not just that, but indoctrinating your children, turning your sons into robots. It's wow. Like it's almost like impressive failure if that's possible. um I mean, but hopefully we fell so hard we win, because if this thing, you know, I think that would be better for everyone.